Welcome back to Alfred's Basic Adult Piano Course, Lesson Book Level 1. I hope all of you are doing great today. This video is Lesson 33, which takes us to page 38 in our book, Introducing E for the Left Hand. So if we look on page 38, we've got a little keyboard diagram there for our left hand. And so just as review, this is your G position, your fifth finger's on G, 4 on A, 3 on B, 2 on middle C, and the thumb on D. The new note we're learning today right above D is our E. And notice that your thumb will take that E. So the thumb sometimes has D and sometimes will have E. Your other fingers are going to stay put, G, A, B, and C. But the thumb has double duty, D and E. Look at the bass staff right above the diagram there. On the bass staff, the E is located 2 ledger lines above the staff. So the tiny little lines that extend above our bass staff, those are called ledger lines, and E is located on the second ledger line. Middle C, which is, as you know, this note right here on the piano, is located on the first ledger line. D is located between both of those ledger lines, and E is on that second ledger line, the one at the very top there. So let's go down to where it says play slowly and say the note names as you play. So the first measure is basically a broken G chord. 5 on G, 3 on B, thumb on D. The second measure, you play G again with your fifth finger. Your second finger plays middle C, and then the thumb moves slightly up to our new note, which is E. On the third measure, you go back to G, B, and notice it says move your thumb to D. So your thumb had just played E, make sure you move it back down to D. And then our last measure, G again, second finger C, and then that thumb moves up to E. So let's go through one more time and play this line from the beginning with a little count off. 1, 2, 3. So when you play this line, the only finger that should be moving again is the thumb. These other 4 fingers should not move from these keys, but your thumb just goes back and forth between either the D or the E. So get comfortable with playing that a few times. Once you're comfortable, we'll move down to where it says a new position of the C major chord. So early on in the book, we were in a C position and you played a C major chord down here. The notes were C, E, and G. Now that's just one way to spell out a C major chord. That way is called root position because the C is the bottom note. But there are other positions where you can play a C major chord outside of root position. You can play this position, where the order is now E, G, and the C's at the top. Or you could play this position, where you have G at the bottom, C in the middle, and E at the top. As long as you have the notes C, E, and G somewhere on the piano, those 3 notes, it's always a C major chord. In this exercise, though, you're going to be playing the C major chord in this position, where G is the bottom note, C is the middle, and E is the top. So remember the second measure that you played up at the top of the page, G, C, and E? So that's a broken C major chord in this position. Now, why does it matter to play it in this position or down here? Well, if we're coming from the G major chord, which is right here, G, B, and D, and we want to go to the C major chord, if we went down here, it's quite a jump. And the sound doesn't sound all that smooth. It sounds like a big jump. But if I'm on here for my G major chord and I go to G, C, and E, look Look how nice that is. It sounds smooth, and I barely have to move my hand. In fact, I'm only moving the fingers. So that's what we're doing here at the bottom of the page. The first pink box, you have the G major chord. So remember, 5 on G, 3 on B, thumb on D. When you go to the C major chord, your pinky stays right on that G. You'll play it again, but you don't move the pinky. Now, when I play the G major chord, your second finger should be above middle C. That's really important because when you play the C major chord, you're going to play that C. So your pinky's here for the G, your second finger is here for C. Your thumb is the only finger that moves slightly up to E. And there's your C major chord. Now, when you play the C major chord, make sure your third finger doesn't shoot straight out like this. That's liable to happen. And that's just because our fingers may not be developed yet. So you always want to try to keep curved fingers, but easier said than done. If that happens, the problem is when I go back to my G major chord, I got to use my third finger on B. So that's a little more movement. And it may even be that my third finger gets off track and maybe goes over there, maybe towards the A or towards the G when I'm playing my C major chord. So again, when I go back to G, I may go something like that. Whoops, I missed it, you know? So you want to also practice keeping that third finger curved down to the B. And again, if it shoots straight out, your right hand's not playing in this exercise. You could put your right hand right there to block it, to keep it held down in place. So there's my G chord. I'm going to put my right hand right there for my C chord, and that keeps my third finger directed towards the B. So when I go back to my G chord, I'm right there. Okay, so at the bottom of the page, you're just going to go back and forth between the G chord and the C chord. So take your time, and the usual rules apply. Make sure that when you play each of these chords, it sounds like one sound. You don't want to roll it. You want to hear all 3 notes clean and clear. And like I said, when you go to the C chord, focus on what fingers move. And like I said, the only one that really moves much is the thumb. And then lastly, train that third finger to stay down if it's not, so that when you go back to the G chord, you're right there. So just practice going back and forth between these 2 chords. When you get comfortable, try to speed it up. And you probably don't have to go much faster than that. But like I always say, accuracy is number 1. So focus on those 2 chords before going on to lesson 34, and I'll see you there.